Okay, so we begin with the chapter number 2, that is Introduction to or Evolution of Public Administration as a Discipline. Okay, let's see how did it start, what was the beginning, and what was the contribution made towards the evolution of public administration as a discipline. Okay, now all disciplines have a timeline of their origin and evolution, and as we all know that there is some or the other genesis of every discipline. Okay, it could be public administration, it could be political science. Okay, it could be all different structures of the government which are available, to us in today's time. Now, historical roots of administrative thought. Let's go to the history from where the evolution of public administration actually started. Okay, now, an ancient past. Ever since ancient times, various thinkers have given or contributed to the administrative thought. Okay, like some people said administration should be like this. Some people said that administration should be like that. So there were different views, there were different thoughts which were connected to, administration and how the administration, how an ideal administration should be. Okay, so there are different thinkers which have contributed towards the administrative machinery and their administrative thoughts. We will see them one by one. Okay, now ancient past, if we see uh, you know um, uh, for example, Kautilya's Arthashastra, okay, which is the most important work on public administration in Kautilya, okay, or in ancient India. He is one of the biggest contributors towards the administration. Okay, how the administration should run, how should be an administrator, what are the important aspects into an administration, or what are the important aspects when it comes to an administrator. Okay, so we see that it deals mainly with the science of polity, people. Okay, uh, power of people, democracy. Okay, it deals with people, people's rights, people's duties. Okay, which according to Kautilya is a combination of science and wealth. Okay, and science of government, I mean to say, science of wealth and science of government. What is the science behind wealth? See, when I'm talking to you about science behind wealth, means number one, how to generate the wealth, how to spend the wealth, and how to save the wealth. Okay, we all definitely are aware about wealth. What is money? What is the importance of money? What is the importance of wealth? But it is the science of wealth. I mean, where does the wealth come from? How to spend it? How to save it? How to invest it for future? Okay, and science of government. What is government? Do we really need government? What is the importance of government? Okay, why do we need government in society? Okay, now when I'm talking about science of government, let's speak about the social contract theory. Okay, the contributors of social contract theory, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau. Okay, they were the people who contributed for the theory of social contract, and today's government is the result of social contract. So it's a science of government. Yes, where did the government come from? Athens, Greece. Okay, it was the first place when they spoke about democracy. Okay, Plato, Aristotle, the father of political science. Okay, they were the one who coined the subject political science. They were the one who spoke about political science, rather, I would say. Okay, now uh, we go to Cameralism in the 18th century. What is Cameralism basically? Okay, in the 18th century, Cameralism in Germany and Austria was concerned with the systematic management of governmental affairs. What is systematic management? Systematic management means people who are responsible. Okay, see, until and unless you are held responsible for your mistake, you will never learn. Okay, same way, if government makes any mistake, okay, and if people don't hold them responsible for it, government will never be able to rectify their mistake. And if they are not held responsible, government will never be able to understand where they have gone wrong or what was the mistake in their policy. Okay, that is the meaning of basically Cameralism in the 18th century, and Germany and Australia was very much following that. Okay, it's basically management of governmental affairs. Okay, what is governmental affairs? Making laws, making policies, implementing the policies, in fact executing the policies. Okay, seeing to it that every individual is happy and satisfied, and people are definitely making the benefit out of the policies which are made for the people without obstructing their human rights, without obstructing their political, social, economic rights and their religious rights as well. Okay, developments in the United States and France. Now, what were the developments that took place in United Nations and France? Towards the end of 18th century in the USA, okay, the meaning of scope of public administration was defined for the first time in Hamilton's The Federalist. Okay, Charles Jean, okay, Bonin's principles of administration. Uh, Also, public administration as a separate subject of study originated and developed mainly in the US. Okay, so it was the US which actually generated a proper understanding or a proper in-depth study of public administration. Okay, now we see that in the 19th century industrialization, which gave rise to large-scale organization, these big companies, okay, these big companies consisted of thousands of workers. Okay, it was necessary to study various movements. It was necessary to study various aspects of these organizations, how these organizations run, what are their principles, what are their policies, how do they manage so much of human power, okay, what actions do they take if there are conflicts between people, okay, or what kind of remedy can be used, what kind of method can be used to solve the disputes, how a company can manage its financial resources. If a company faces loss, okay, how is it going to repay back, how is it going to get it back, and how is it going to manage? Okay, so these were all mentioned in the study of public administration which took place in USA at that time. All right, then what are the stages in the evolution of the discipline of public administration? Okay, what were the evolution, what were the changes that took place in the study of public administration? Okay, now let's see the paradigm. Okay, paradigm 1, politics administration dichotomy in 1887 to 1926. Okay, paradigm 2, principles of administration 1927 to 37. Paradigm 3, eras of challenge 1940, 1938 to 47. Okay, paradigm 4, crisis of identity 1948, okay, to 1970. Paradigm 5, public policy perspective 1971 and continue. Okay, let's see what are the paradigm 1, that is politics administration dichotomy. All right, Wilson's contribution, okay, is the most important contribution, Woodrow Wilson. Okay, this stage started with the publication of Woodrow Wilson's essay, The Study of Administration, in the Political Science Quarterly in 1887. Okay, now Wilson urged that administration should be separated from politics. Okay, he argued that politics is concerned with policy making, while administration is concerned with the implementation of policy decisions. Obviously, politics depends, or the main work of politics is policy making. You have to make policies for people. You have to generate policies. You have to come up with new policies for people so that people will understand. Okay, and there will be complete acceptance in the society. There will be complete, silence or peace in the society, and that is only possible when the policies are favorable for people without affecting their basic rights. All right. Then implementation. It's the work of administration to implement the policies. Policies cannot be made and implemented by one person. Okay, these are different departments, and these departments need to be kept different, and that is what Woodrow Wilson said. Now, politics is about policy making, and administration is about policy implementing the policies which are made by the people. Okay, then we go to there should be a science or administration which shall seek. There should be a separate science we should, which will seek, which will try to understand. Okay. First is to straighten the paths of government. Straighten the paths of government means whatever hurdles come in between the government, okay, whatever differences, whatever issues come between the government, this science should be able to solve it out. This science should be able to come or provide a proper solution for it. Next, to make its business more business-like, it should look like an administrative work. It should not look like a mockery. It should not look like, something that is not required, something that is, not clinging with what it's supposed to be. Okay. Third, to strengthen and purify its organizations. How can you strengthen and purify your organization? By removing the issues, by solving the problems, by resolving the problems, by resolving the issues. That is possible. Okay. Fourth, to crown its duties with dutifulness. Okay, you need to, the administrators, people who work in public administration, they need to understand that it is their duty, it is their work, it is their, responsibility to fulfill the duty what has been given to them. All right. Then Frank Goodno's thoughts. Let's see. We are done with Woodrow Wilson's thoughts. Let's see Frank Goodno's thoughts. Okay. The Wilsonian line of thought was further contributed by Frank J. Goodnow in his book Politics and Administration, published in 1990s, 1900, I mean to say 1900. He made a sharp conceptual distinction between two functions of government, that is politics and administration. To quote Goodnow, politics has to do with policies or expressions of the state will. Okay, it has to do with policies or expressions. Obviously, the government will make policy. The government's duty is to make policies for people which will benefit them, which will help them. Okay. Third, American Political Science Association came up with something new. Let's see what is that. In the beginning of the 20th century, the American university showed much interest in the public service movement, the movement for governmental reform. What reforms? The entire working structure of the government, the entire hierarchy of the government. Okay, the approach of the government towards its people, the approach of government towards any problem. Okay, government is supposed to provide solutions to the problem, not give rise to problem. Okay, first textbook on public administration was published in 1926 by L.D. White's Introduction to the Study of Public Administration was published. It was the first textbook on public administration. Okay, first textbook of public administration. Means complete control, complete details, complete in-depth knowledge, complete in-depth study of politics into administration. Okay. Then paradigm 2, principles of administration. What are the various principles of administration? Let's see one by one. First, it is given by Willoughby and others. The stage began with the publication of W. H. Willoughby's Principle of Public Administration in 1927. He said that in administration there are certain fundamental principles of general application. Claimed that public administration, okay, claimed that those characterizing any science. Okay. Now, why public administration is a science? It tries to study the society. It tries to study the problems of the society. And it tries to come up with solutions. It provides you solutions, which will help you to work, further, which will help you to, create a sense of responsibility or create a sense of understanding between the government and the people. Okay. Then we see there are the other important publications of the stage reflecting the principles approach to administration are Henry Fayol's Industrial and General Management in 1916, that is 1916. M.P. Fellow's Creative Experience in 1924, Mooney and Reilly's Onward Industry in 1931, Gulick and Irwin's paper on Science of Administration in 1937, Mooney and Reilly's Principle of Organization in 1939. Okay, Gulick and Irwin. We are going to see a short and a small study of what is Mooney, what is Gulick and Irwin. This stage in the evolution of public administration reached its zenith with the appearance of Dalick and Erwick. Okay, papers on science of administration. Dalick and Erwick stated that it is the general thesis of this paper that there are principles which can be arrived in inductively from the study of human organization, which should govern arrangements for human association of any kind. Okay, wherever human beings are associated or wherever human beings are connected, okay, there you need a sort of administration. There you need a sort of formation of policies, okay, which will keep them intact, which will keep them together. Okay, then paradigm 3, that is era. Okay, era of challenge in 1938 to 1947. Okay, the main theme during this particular time was human relations behavioral approach. What is human relations behavioral approach? Okay, human relations means basically keeping what kind of relation that you have with each other, okay, or keeping what kind of an approach that you have with each other. Human relations theory, okay, moreover, the principles approach to organizational analysis was criticized as a mechanic approach due to its emphasis on the formal structure of organization. Okay, the Hawthorne studies conducted in 1924 to 1932 aspects of organizational behavior. Okay, the Hawthorne studies uh, psychological aspects of organizational behavior. Okay, and this study was conducted under the guidance of Elton Mayo. Elton Mayo, okay, he was the one who guided this particular research and this particular study of administration. Okay, some important things which are there we will see. These studies gave rise to the human relations theory of organization. The human relations theory asserted that relations among employees affect the efficiency of the organization the more. See, for example, in an organization, people are not comfortable with each other. They are always in quarrelsome with each other. They are always, having any sort of dispute among themselves. It will definitely affect the organization. It will definitely, create a kind of disaster for an organization when it comes to its economic aspect. When it comes to its economic aspect. Then we see behavioral approach. What is the behavioral approach? Herbert A. Simon was the most important critic of principles of administration and described them as proverbs. Okay, he advocated the behavioral approach to public administration to make it a more scientific discipline. He focused upon decision making as the alternative to the principles approach. Okay, it can be an alternative to the principles approach. Okay, because Simon rejected the idea of politics administration dichotomy and recommended an empirical approach. Okay, to study of public administration. Empirical approach means a study based on facts and scientific methods. Okay, facts can be found by proofs. Okay, proofs of the early generation, the early government, the early policies which were made, similar to what is happening today, right? So that was your behavioral approach. Robert Dahl's critics on the principal approach. Okay, Robert Dahl says that basically the frequent impossibility of excluding normative considerations, okay, from the problems of public administration. The study of public administration must be founded on some clarification of ends. Okay, ends. How are you going to achieve your ends? What are your means? Okay, will you be happy with the end? Will you be happy with the means? Okay, so your ends which are there, they justify your means. What kind of route, what kind of road, what kind of path have you accepted? Okay, when it comes to achieving your ends in a particular way. Then we see the unscientific nature. Then we see the unscientific nature of principles of administration, which are based on few examples. Okay, say for example, no science of public administration is possible unless the place of normative values is made clear. Normative value means norms. Rules and regulations. Without rules and regulations, human society cannot survive, it cannot work, right? Then the nature of man in the area of public administration is better understood and his conduct is more predictable. Can you predict human behavior? Not at all. Okay, so when we cannot predict human behavior, we cannot predict administration also. What kind of methods they will take, what kind of approach they have, what kind of policies will they make. Okay, we as citizens, we expect or we accept policies which are welfare state oriented, but it's in the hands of the government, it's in the hands of the authoritative people who are sitting at the center what kind of policy or what kind of government or what kind of institutions they will make and they will create with time. Okay, then there is a body of comparative studies from which it may be possible to discover principles of generalities. Okay, then the nature of the man in the area of public administration is better understood by his conduct, which is more predictable. Okay, how a human being will behave. Okay, we need to study that. We need to understand what is going to be the behavior of an individual in a particular situation or in a particular set of framework. How is he going to behave that? That is what is going to matter. Environmental effects comparative studies. Okay, obviously, your environment matters a lot. It could be the structure of the government, the kind of government that you're living with, the kind of policy that the government makes, or the kind of systematic study or systematic structuralism that a government follows. Okay, paradigm 4, crisis of identity. Paradigm 4, okay, which started from 1940 to 1970s, 70. With the rejection of politics, administration, dichotomy and principles of administration, public administration suffered from the crisis of identity. Consequently, scholars of public administration reacted in two ways. Return to the fold of political science, okay, and it basically means that they were encouraged by political scientists. Okay, how they are going to do, what are they going to do, what will be the system's approach, what will be the government's approach, what will the study come out, and how will the study come out from this particular area. Then administrative science, they argued that administrative or administration is administration irrespective of its setting. They founded the Journal of Administrative Science got in 1956. See, from time to time, public administration has gone under a lot of changes. It has gone under a lot of cuts. It has gone under a lot of how do I say, under a lot of manipulation, under a lot of manifestations. There were a lot of things which were involved in changing the public administration, and that is what this particular system is all about. Paradigm 5, public policy perspective. Public policy basically means that government will focus more on people's rights, people's policy, rather than government enforcing or imposing its own rules, its own perspective, its own policies on the particular government. Okay, so here we see that in conclusion we see that the it is not possible to separate public administration from political science because it is a branch of political science. It's a part of political science. Okay, the emphasis of public administration should be on policy science. Policy, what kind of policies are you making? For what level of people? What categories of people? And how are you going to deal with such policies? How are you going to fulfill such policies? Third, approach to the study of administration must be interdisciplinary. Okay, it should not be related only to political science, economics, sociology. Okay, political science could be any which way is there. Psychology. Okay, policy making and policy implementation are two distinct processes. Making and implementing are two different processes. They cannot be united together at the same time. Okay. Then the third world perspective is important for the discipline. What is the third world? The countries which are not developed, neither in the stage of developing, poor countries, below poverty line, and comparative perspective enriches public administration as a discipline. Okay, it is as a discipline. So we are done with chapter number 2 also.